Well,
What's up, everyone? How's it going, Brian, Eric? Good to see you all.
it's good to see you. It's going well. How are you?
Amazing. Could not be better at all. And I'd like to introduce you to my good friend Chris from Slack. What's up?
Hey everyone. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for joining.
Awesome show you guys.
Randall
out
wasn't
here.
on earlier when I mispronounced his name. So
Yeah, and sorry about the hostile takeover, by the way. Slight technical issues, as you can tell. So thank you. Let me introduce myself, everyone. So I'm Randall. I lead the DevRel and community team at Snyk. I'm a developer myself. I've been writing software for over 20 years, and I've worked on all sorts of different security things, from operating systems to building developer tools and libraries to now working on more of the developer security space overall. And so absolutely love it. And Krish, maybe you could tell us a bit about what you do over at Slack.
Absolutely. Thanks, Randall. So hey everyone, my name is Krish. I'm a partner engineer at Slack. So a lot of what I do is help our partners integrate into Slack. So whether that's apps, a lot of our app directory partners come directly to us to help develop their apps. So one of our biggest partners is actually Snyk, and they've come to us, and we're actually in the midst of building an app, which is really awesome. And we hope to show a little bit more of that later. But yeah, really excited to be here and talk more about that. When I was a developer, like I remember being like on a project that had like a Node.js. It was a Node.js project that was like not updated since like 2015 or something, and this was like back in 2021. I remember like there was like a whole bunch of security like issues coming up, like flagged by our security team. Without Snyk like telling me what those vulnerabilities were, I would have had to like go and like research these things all by myself, or it would have been like hectic. But like using Snyk, it made my process like super easy, just like seeing what each of those vulnerabilities were, what version to upgrade to. Like I think it was awesome. It was really dope. It made my life super easy.
I have to interrupt you for a second. Did you say this was in 2021 and the app was written in Node in 2015?
Yeah, it was really old. Like
yeah, I mean in JavaScript years, like they say dog years is times 7. I think in JavaScript it's like times 20. So yeah, that's a long, massive amount of time.
It was pretty prehistoric, and I mean to add to that, it was meant to be like this project that like obfuscates like the code a little bit. So it was like super hard to read and like trying to figure out what's going on there. But Snyk made my life a lot easier with the tooling. But jumping to Slack, on the Slack side specifically, like I think there's 3 things that we love about Snyk. I think number 1 is the IDE integrations. Like this helps us like detect any vulnerabilities before we even push code or commit code, that is. Number 2 is like the PR scanning, so that's super useful as well before we push things into production. And then if ever there's things that come up in production, we have a daily script that runs, checks all our packages, and if everything comes up, we have the resources to flag those things and investigate them and obviously push a fix.
The types of people using Snyk are sort of evenly split, I would say, between developers who are just writing code every day, who probably don't think all that much about security. They just want to build stuff and hopefully not have security get in the way. And then you have security admins who are rolling Snyk out at an organization, potentially like Slack, right? Where you have a lot of engineers working on a lot of different things. What does that breakdown look like for you all at Slack, and how do you sort of manage those security programs over there?
Part of it is using like what Snyk provides us, like an excellent UI to kind of see like what's going on in all of our projects, to really triage like those issues, like high priority versus like low priority ones. We use other tools such as like Jira, or even like GitHub issues. So like a mix of like the 2 tools. Like a lot of our development project management stuff's around Jira, so like having that Snyk integration with Jira like helps us a lot. And those are kind of like the 2 tools we use to manage those things.
I'll also talk conversely about how at Snyk we use Slack for pretty much everything, and that will actually lead us really nicely into the cool new integration we're going to be demoing for all of you watching at home. We'll get into that more in a moment. But in case you didn't know, Snyk runs almost entirely on top of Slack internally. So pretty much every form of communication that we use internally goes through Slack. We have about 100 million Slack channels. One of the very first things I learned when I got to Snyk was that, I found it very odd at first that I wasn't getting any email. And I thought, wow, no one's emailing me anything here. This is a little bit confusing. How am I supposed to communicate with people? Then when I first logged into Slack, I had about 10 million messages. And so I quickly sort of learned how to organize my channels into tab groups and to sort of keep everything nice and tidy. Since we use Slack for everything, and obviously there's this whole chat ops movement where people are building things and trying to incorporate chatbots and Slack bots into all the different things that they're working on, that's something we use extremely heavily. So maybe Krish, how common is it, would you say, for developers to roll Slack bots out for critical workflows and parts of their development process?
It's hugely important to us. Like, we know we have like a big developer community that loves like playing around with our platform, and that's why, you know, we invest so much in like toolings like SDKs, CLIs, like make sure there's like tutorials, there's docs out there to help developers. We have a Slack community workspace where you can go and ask questions about those things. So yeah, we know that like developers care a lot about, you know, their integration that they have currently with Slack, and we want to make that easier for them to roll out even more integrations in the future, you know.
Now that we sort of covered that, like, let's get into something cool. So how do we actually tie this thing together? And this is, I think, the thing that Chris and I are really excited to showcase to all of you. But I am on Snyk.io, our website, and I'm going to sign into my personal account. I've already authorized. I just literally have it plugged into my personal GitHub. I got nothing special here except that I got access to the new Slack integration. And so I'm going to step you through how this thing works and why it is so cool. Before I even do that, this is my Slack account. And what I did is I created a new Slack org so I wouldn't sort of, you know, mess with any of our official work integrations. It's called Randall's Test Org. And imagine I am building some stuff with some friends using like a Slack org on the free plan, and I want to find a way to sort of manage vulnerabilities and security incidents. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm actually going to go ahead and create a channel that I'm going to keep tabs on all of my security stuff on, and I'm going to name it security, of course, which is a very relevant thing. So go ahead and create this channel. I'm going to skip. So it's just me in here, right? So next thing I'm going to do is I'm in my Snyk dashboard. Now I have some projects that I've already hooked up in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the integrations tab. Basically, I have this Slack app integration here. And when I click on it, it's going to prompt me to go through a standard OAuth and OpenID Connect flow to allow me to like read my Snyk vulnerability data. And so I'm going to go ahead and go through that flow right now and then plug it into Slack. Now, in my case, my Slack org is, I think, Randall's Test Org. Okay, .slack.com. And it's going to be able to view my content, my channels and conversations, and it's going to be able to do some write actions. So it's going to be able to write into those channels. So I'm going to grant that permission. And now my Slack app has been successfully connected, which is great. So now I'm on the settings page here. And what I'm going to do is, as you can see, it's pulling in a list of my Slack channels that I have. I'm going to select the security channel because this is where I'm going to want this Slack bot to output vulnerability information to. And for severity levels, I'm going to set it to basically warn me if any low severity vulnerabilities or more severe are detected. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to save this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going into my projects page, and I have a few projects in here. Now, one of these projects I have is called Snyk Tests. And as you'll see right here, it says I have one medium severity vulnerability in this project. And this is actually on GitHub. It's a public open source repository. You can take a look at it. And right now there's pretty much nothing in here, right? So it has a git ignore file. It has some JavaScript code in the directory, and that's it. Now, what I'm going to do is there's a very good example of some bad insecure code on GitHub called the Node.js goof. This is a JavaScript project, as we were talking about earlier, but it showcases a really bad example of what can go wrong when you're building things using data dependencies and you're, not careful with your code. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the package.json file from this project. And since my project doesn't have any dependencies or package.json, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this into there, since I know this is really vulnerable. So in the terminal, I'm at my project prompt here. I'm going to say package.json. I'm going to paste in the vulnerable stuff. I'm going to commit it. Oops, let me blow this up. Commit-m, adding vulnerable package.json. And I'm going to push straight to master. Yep, straight to master. Now, Laurent says, do not deploy that to production, which is probably some good advice. Since I've just pushed this to production, I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page here so I can see that the package.json is in the GitHub repo. And if I go to Snyk, it's going to now be running some tests against this project right away. So what I'm going to do is give Snyk a moment. And once Snyk detects vulnerabilities in this project, it's going to then pass that information to Slack, and it's going to dump those into this Slack channel down here. And so all we need to do now is wait for Snyk to run the scan. Might take a moment or two. And if we open this up, nope, hasn't scanned it yet. So we'll give it a minute. But basically, as soon as that pops up, we're going to see a bunch of vulnerabilities populate in the security channel here. We'll give this a moment. There we go. So just picked up in here, you can see the package.json. You can see there's now a critical vulnerability, 32 high vulnerabilities, a medium severity vulnerability, and 6 low. And so if I go and check this out in our web interface, what I will see, hopefully, is information on all these vulnerabilities. And yeah, so I can see all this stuff. Snyk obviously makes it really easy to fix things that might involve just a version dependency update, for example. You know, there's a lot of things like that. I'm sure there's also code examples where we can come in here and maybe partially fix this one, etc. I'm still a little bit confused. Why is this not updating right away? Let's take a look. All right, I'm going to stop sharing that for one moment and ping one of my colleagues here. By the way, this is the beta. We are testing things out, so don't worry. This is going to be absolutely snappy and perfectly fast. You know, maybe we tempted the demo gods slightly, doing everything in real time right here.
We could reach out to them.
An accommodation could be made. A truce.
No! There will be no truce.
I was literally just doing this earlier, and this was working absolutely flawlessly. So maybe we ran into a slight bottleneck in the queue. Slay the demo monsters.
Paint the walls with their blood.
You'll just drive them further away.
I think today we have a couple different stages of security adoption. Like stage one is you sort of track security in a meaningful way and have a program around it. But maybe not everyone at the organization is on the same page, right? A lot of organizations are there. Stage two is you have a security program and developers are aware of it and they have security tooling and things that they use themselves. So maybe it's not just a security team chasing people down, but your developers have some understanding and are actually thinking about security and using tooling to fix it. There's a decent amount of organizations at that level as well. Maybe a third level is you have in-depth security integration throughout your company. So maybe in that case, you're using tools like this, where you have Snyk and other security tooling plugged into your communications platforms like Slack, or maybe you have automatic tickets going through Jira, right? But it's a little bit more sophisticated. It's plugged in very thoroughly into all the areas. And then I would say maybe in the future, 5-10 years out, we might even get to a place where a majority of issues that can be fixed automatically are being remediated, you know, automatically. And humans are only getting alerted to the things that are, you know, not machine or AI fixable automatically. I would love to see something like that in the future too, where, you know, maybe I'm in Slack and I just get a notification saying, hey, Randall, we just fixed 5 security issues automatically for you. Just want to let you know. Or something along those lines. That would be like my absolute dream scenario.
I mean, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about it, right?
We do have a really cool team internally here at Snyk working on auto fix, which is a really interesting concept coming up in the near future here. So hopefully we will have some more interesting things to share about that later this year. Thank you for having Chris and I. This has been super fun. And unfortunately, the stupid demo gods did not work in our favor today.
They've learned how to hurt us.
Should descend on Argos tonight. Take our vengeance now.
Yeah, these things happen, you know?
I know exactly how you feel.
Yes, for
They
sure.
do indeed. Far too many conferences I've been on stage live actually doing some coding, which is the worst time for conference Wi-Fi to break or something like that. So yeah, always one of those things.
It's all good. It's all good. It's good to see the integration though, and can imagine the potential that's behind it. So,
And use your imagination.
yes. Well, thank you, Randall and Krish, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.